Let's be honest, our world has become a giant noisy circus. Everyone's talking, but few are listening. Somewhere in between, wisdom gets lost in the shuffle. But what if I told you that silence, yes, that simple, often overlooked pause, could be your greatest weapon? Think about it. How many times have you blurted something out in anger and instantly regretted it? Or watched a heated argument spiral out of control when a well-placed silence could have ended it? Even Marcus Aurelius himself knew the power of restraint. He didn't just rule an empire, he ruled his own tongue. Silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a strategy, a form of self-discipline, a statement that speaks louder than words. In a world that rewards the loudest voices, choosing silence at the right moments can set you apart, command respect, and even shift the balance of power in your favor. So when should you embrace silence? When is keeping your mouth shut not just smart, but life-changing? Stick with me, because today we're diving into the 9 crucial moments when saying nothing at all is the ultimate act of wisdom. First, let's talk about when you're criticized unfairly. Have you ever received criticism so unfair that it made you want to scream, flip a table, or at least draft a long, angry response in your head? We've all been there. It's that moment when someone completely off base accuses you of something ridiculous, and your first instinct is to fight back. Maybe it was a coworker blaming you for a project's failure when you weren't even involved, or a friend misinterpreting your words and painting you as the villain. The injustice of it burns. But what if I told you that these moments, these infuriating, hair-pulling moments, are actually golden opportunities? According to Stoic philosophy, being unfairly criticized is not a curse, but a chance to show strength, integrity, and self-control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If something external disturbs you, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it." Think about that for a second. It's not the criticism that hurts, it's our reaction to it. It's the story we tell ourselves about what it means. And the best part, we can change that story. Imagine this. You're at a family dinner and your aunt, the one who has an opinion on everything, suddenly comments, "You've never really been great with money. I'm surprised you're still managing on your own." Your blood starts to boil, and the temptation to fire back is strong. You want to list every smart financial decision you've made, throw in a few economic terms just to prove how wrong she is, and maybe even bring up that time she fell for a multi-level marketing scheme. But pause. What would a Stoic do? A Stoic would take a deep breath and remember, this is not about you. It's about her perception, her own biases, maybe even her insecurities. You don't have to prove anything. Epictetus, another great Stoic thinker, taught that we should separate ourselves from the criticism. You control your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Instead of seeing your aunt's comment as a personal attack, see it for what it really is, just words, just an opinion. And opinions, as we all know, are everywhere. Some are helpful, some are nonsense, and some are simply projections of other people's fears and experiences. But let's take it further. What if, hidden inside unfair criticism, there's actually something useful? Even the most ridiculous feedback can contain a sliver of truth. Maybe your aunt's delivery was terrible, but is there a lesson there? Could it be that you've been meaning to revisit your budget or look into better investment options? This isn't about admitting she was right. It's about using everything, even the unfair, frustrating, completely misplaced criticism, to improve yourself. And here's another radical idea: silence. Not every attack needs a counterattack. Not every unfair remark needs a defense. There's a quiet power in refusing to engage in unnecessary battles. Picture a boxing match where one fighter just stands there, calm, unaffected. The other person eventually looks ridiculous, swinging at the air. That's you when you don't react. You remain centered while the person throwing baseless criticism loses their steam. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea perfectly. Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In other words, let your actions speak louder than any defense you could mount. This approach doesn't just protect your peace, it changes the dynamic. When you stay calm in the face of unfair criticism, people notice. It sets you apart, makes you someone others respect because you're not easily rattled. And in the long run, this earns you more credibility than any argument ever could. Of course, this is easier said than done. Our natural instinct is to protect our ego, to make sure people get the facts straight. But if you look at the long game, you'll see that Stoicism isn't about letting people walk all over you. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about knowing that your value isn't determined by what others say about you, but by how you carry yourself in response. So the next time you're unfairly criticized, pause. Ask yourself, is this about me or is it about them? Is there any truth here that I can use? And most importantly, will engaging in this fight actually benefit me? Or is my silence the real power move? Unfair criticism isn't a roadblock, it's a test. And if you handle it well, you don't just walk away unscathed, you walk away stronger. Now let's talk about silence in the middle of boasts. We've all been there, stuck in a conversation where someone just won't stop talking about how amazing they are. Maybe it's a coworker who just landed a high-profile client and keeps dropping mentions of their genius strategy. Or perhaps it's an old friend who suddenly found success and now speaks in TED talks about their grind and determination. You feel the urge to counter, to throw in your own wins, to subtly remind them, and everyone else, that you're doing just fine too. But here's the problem. The moment you engage in that game, you've already lost. Stoicism teaches that real confidence doesn't come from proving anything to anyone. It comes from knowing you don't have to. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that what other people say and do is their business, not ours. In moments like these, when someone is basking in their own self-importance, your greatest power move is silence. Not the awkward, insecure kind, not the kind that's seething with resentment, but the kind that comes from deep, unshakable confidence. It's the ability to simply listen, maybe nod, maybe even smile, without feeling the need to enter the ring of one-upmanship. Imagine you're at a dinner party, and one guest, let's call him Jeff, has taken it upon himself to dominate the conversation. He's talking about his new investment property, his luxury vacation, how he's mastered intermittent fasting, and now has the metabolism of a teenager. The table listens politely, but you can sense the undercurrent. Some are impressed, some are bored, some are quietly irritated. You consider chiming in, maybe sharing your own recent win. But then you remember, you don't need to. Instead, you sit back, sip your drink, and enjoy the show. What happens next? Jeff keeps talking. His words reveal more about him than they do about you or anyone else. And the more he talks, the more obvious it becomes that his need to be admired is just that, a need. You, on the other hand, don't need external validation. And that right there is what sets you apart. This is the power of strategic silence. It's not about being passive. It's about choosing when to engage and when to conserve your energy. It's about realizing that life is not a competition where every success story must be met with another. Instead of measuring yourself against others, you shift your focus to something much more valuable: your own path, your own progress, your own peace of mind. Psychologically, this is a game changer. When you stop reacting to boasts, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of comparison. You become more self-assured, more centered, and paradoxically, people respect you more for it. Because nothing says, "I'm secure in myself," like the ability to let others shine without feeling the need to dim their light or to make yours burn brighter. So next time you find yourself in a room full of self-promotion, try this. Listen, acknowledge, but don't compete. Let others talk, let them reveal who they are. And in doing so, you'll reveal who you are. Not through words, but through the quiet, effortless grace of someone who knows exactly what they're worth. Now let's dive into dealing with anger. Anger is a tricky thing. It sneaks up on you, explodes without warning, and before you know it, you're standing in the aftermath, wondering if it was really worth it. And yet, when we're caught in that moment, with our hearts racing and adrenaline surging, reason often takes a backseat. But here's the secret. Anger only has as much power as we give it. This is where Stoicism offers a solution, not by telling us to suppress anger, but by teaching us how to master it. Picture this. You're at the grocery store after a long, exhausting day. You finally get in line, and just as it's your turn to check out, someone cuts right in front of you. No apology, no acknowledgement. Instantly, your blood pressure spikes, and your mind starts drafting a speech that would put any courtroom drama to shame. But then you stop. What if you did nothing? What if, instead of reacting, you simply observed? That pause, that moment of silence, isn't weakness. It's power. Because in that instant, you've done something most people struggle to do. You've chosen control over impulse. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful rulers, understood this well. He once wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." Think about that. It's never just the thing that makes us angry. It's the chain reaction that follows. Losing your temper at a coworker, now you're the difficult one. Yelling at your spouse, that argument lingers long after the words are spoken. Anger convinces us that we're defending ourselves, when in reality, we're just making things worse. But let's be honest, staying calm isn't always easy. That's why the Stoics practice stepping back from the situation before reacting. It's not about bottling things up. It's about choosing a response that actually serves you. When we get angry, it's often because we feel out of control. But the irony is that our real power comes from realizing we don't have to control the world, just ourselves. A key part of mastering anger is understanding what triggers it. Is it a sense of unfairness? A bruised ego? Once you identify the source, you start to see that most of what makes you mad isn't about the other person. It's about your own expectations. Shift that perspective, and suddenly their rudeness loses its grip on you. Of course, this doesn't mean we should tolerate injustice or let people walk all over us. But responding with measured thought instead of blind rage is far more effective. If something truly needs to be addressed, it's best done from a place of calm, not fury. Nelson Mandela, after years of imprisonment, could have emerged filled with bitterness. Instead, he chose to use his experience to lead his country toward reconciliation, not because he was weak, but because he understood that anger alone doesn't create change. Wisdom does. So how do we apply this in daily life? Start small. When frustration rises, take a breath. Give yourself the space to think before you act. Use deep breathing, shift your focus, or even better, channel that energy into something productive. Exercise, write, create, do anything that transforms that fire into something worthwhile. Anger isn't inherently bad. In fact, when directed properly, it can be a powerful motivator. The key is to let it fuel you, not control you. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to never feel anger. It's to respond in a way that benefits you, not one that leaves you cleaning up the damage. The next time you're faced with a moment of frustration, when we face a career setback, or the loss of a long-held dream, our first instinct is often resistance. We find ourselves replaying moments in our minds, thinking about what we could have done differently, as though we could rewrite the past. But Stoicism teaches us that the only thing we can control is our response. We cannot undo loss, but we can decide how we move forward. Seneca once said, "The day we fear as our last is but the birthday of eternity." This idea shifts our perspective. Loss is not an end but a transition, a shift in our journey rather than its destruction. It's natural to feel pain, but what if, instead of avoiding it, we allowed ourselves to sit with it? Silence after a loss is not an absence of feeling, but a space for reflection, processing, and healing. It allows us to make peace with what we cannot change. Rather than viewing grief as something to suppress, we can recognize it as a sign of love, of deep connection. The pain of loss is only as strong as the meaning something held in our lives, and that meaning doesn't disappear, it transforms. The Stoics believed that every hardship is an opportunity for growth. Loss strips away illusions, reminding us of what truly matters. It forces us to appreciate the present and focus on what we still have, rather than what is gone. Gratitude, even in grief, can be a powerful tool. It doesn't erase pain, but it balances it. Writing down what remains, whether it's supportive relationships, memories, or personal strength gained through hardship, can shift our perspective from emptiness to appreciation. No one escapes loss, but how we respond to it defines our ability to endure. By embracing the silence rather than running from it, by focusing on what we can control, and by finding meaning even in pain, we create the possibility of not just surviving loss, but becoming stronger because of it. Healing is not about forgetting, but about learning to carry what we've lost in a way that allows us to keep moving forward. Have you ever encountered someone so sure of their knowledge, yet their actions reveal a complete misunderstanding of the topic at hand? It's both amusing and frustrating, right? Whether it's a coworker who insists they know the best way to do something but repeatedly fails, or an internet expert arguing without facts, these situations test our patience. But instead of getting frustrated, this is the perfect opportunity to practice Stoic wisdom. Take the story of Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers of all time. He was known for his ability to expose ignorance, not through heated debate, but through calm and skillful questioning. Socrates didn't argue. He simply asked thoughtful questions that forced people to confront the flaws in their reasoning. The result: those who were sure they were right often unraveled under their own contradictions. Now, imagine applying this approach in your life. Instead of trying to convince someone they're wrong, which rarely works, try asking sincere questions. What makes you so sure? Or have you considered another perspective? These questions don't attack, they invite reflection. More often than not, the other person will either rethink their stance or at least realize they might not know as much as they thought. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control others, only our response to them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you meet someone who is stubbornly wrong, you have a choice. React with frustration, or approach the situation with curiosity and patience. But let's be honest, sometimes people just don't want to listen, no matter how rational your approach. In those cases, take another Stoic lesson to heart. Silence is powerful. Galileo, despite having undeniable proof that the Earth revolved around the sun, faced immense opposition from those who refused to accept the truth. Instead of wasting energy arguing, he let time and evidence do the talking. He knew the truth didn't need to be shouted, it would stand on its own. By practicing patience and strategic silence, you free yourself from unnecessary frustration. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to change every mind. True wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to let things go. Ask yourself, what's more valuable, proving a point or maintaining your inner peace? So the next time you find yourself in a conversation with someone who is confidently wrong, take a deep breath. Channel your inner Socrates and decide, will you question? Will you stay silent, or will you simply walk away? The choice is yours, and in that choice lies your power. There comes a time in everyone's life when they realize they've become the subject of whispers. It might start as a small misunderstanding, but soon enough, it takes on a life of its own, passed from person to person, each retelling adding a little more spice. It's frustrating, even infuriating. Your first instinct might be to chase down every rumor, correct every lie, and prove your innocence. But let's be real. Has that ever actually worked? Consider the story of a man named Daniel. He was a dedicated teacher who spent years helping struggling students get back on track. He poured his heart into his work, staying late, offering extra tutoring, and even organizing community programs. But when one student, angry about a failing grade, started spreading rumors that Daniel played favorites, things quickly spiraled. Parents whispered, colleagues exchanged weary glances, and soon his reputation was on shaky ground. He could have defended himself, called out the lies, or demanded an apology. Instead, he took a different approach. He kept showing up, kept teaching, and let his work speak for itself. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who did the injury." Daniel understood this. Instead of feeding the fire, he starved it of oxygen. Over time, parents saw how their children improved under his guidance. His colleagues noticed his unwavering dedication, and the student who started the rumor. He moved on to a new target, as people who thrive on gossip always do. This story isn't just about Daniel, it's about you. How often have you let someone else's words control your emotions, dictate your actions, or rob you of your peace? Stoicism teaches that we can't control what others say, only how we respond. Epictetus reminds us that if the rumors are true, we should correct ourselves. If they're false, why waste time worrying? But let's be honest, ignoring rumors is easier said than done. It's human nature to want to defend yourself, to set the record straight. That's why the real challenge isn't silence, it's confidence. When you choose not to engage, you're making a powerful statement. I don't need to explain myself to those who don't know me. That level of self-assurance is intimidating to those who gossip because they rely on your reaction to fuel the drama. So how do you get there? First, control your emotions. Reacting in anger only makes the rumor feel more real. Take a step back, breathe, and remind yourself that what others say doesn't define you. Second, seek clarity. Is this gossip even worth your energy? If the people spreading it don't matter, then neither do their words. Finally, let your actions speak. Over time, those who matter will see the reality of who you are. The rest? They'll move on to the next story. Because at the end of the day, rumors don't destroy reputations. Overreacting to them does. So the next time you hear whispers, do what the wisest minds in history have always done. Smile, stay silent, and keep walking forward. Life has a strange habit of being unfair. You could be the most honest, hardworking person in the room, and somehow someone less deserving gets the promotion. You could be kind and generous, yet people still gossip behind your back. You could play by all the rules, and yet there will always be moments when life throws a curveball that leaves you wondering, why me? It's enough to make anyone feel bitter, frustrated, maybe even vengeful. But before you start plotting revenge or launching into an endless spiral of self-pity, Let's talk about how Stoic philosophy offers a much better way to handle life's injustices. Imagine you're a young scientist working tirelessly on an innovative project, one that could change lives. You've put in the late nights, the extra effort, the sacrifice. Then at a major conference, your supervisor takes full credit for your work. Your name is barely mentioned. You feel the anger rising in your chest. You want to stand up, call them out, demand recognition. But you don't, not because you're weak, but because you understand something deeper. Real power isn't in reacting, it's in controlling how you respond. This is exactly what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." The moment you lash out, you've lost control. But if you stay calm and continue your work with integrity, eventually the truth will reveal itself, and the respect you build from your restraint will outlast any fleeting satisfaction revenge could have given you. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we react. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions of the moment, to want to correct every injustice immediately. But ask yourself, what's more powerful, shouting into the void, or proving through consistent action that nothing can shake your character? The greatest Stoics, from Seneca to Epictetus, emphasized emotional discipline. This doesn't mean suppressing how you feel, but rather understanding that emotions are temporary, and acting on them impulsively often makes things worse. Take a moment to think about a time when someone wronged you. Maybe it was a boss who overlooked your contributions, a friend who betrayed your trust, or a stranger who disrespected you. Now think about how you reacted. Did it bring you peace? Did it resolve the situation? More often than not, when we react emotionally to injustice, we only fuel the fire. The more upset we become, the more power we give to the situation. But when we meet unfairness with patience and strategy, we take that power back. This doesn't mean we should accept injustice passively. Stoicism is not about being a doormat. It's about choosing the right battles and fighting them with intelligence rather than raw emotion. Think of a lawyer defending an innocent client. If they let their anger at the injustice cloud their judgment, they risk making mistakes. But if they channel that energy into building a solid case, they increase their chances of winning. The same applies to life. When faced with unfairness, don't let it shake you. Instead, stay grounded, assess the situation, and respond in a way that aligns with your values. One of the hardest things about injustice is the feeling of powerlessness it creates. But true power lies in refusing to let it define you. There's an old saying, "You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails." You may not be able to stop unfair situations from happening, but you can decide how to navigate them. Maybe the unfair promotion at work means it's time to develop new skills and prove your worth elsewhere. Maybe the gossip about you is a test of your confidence. Will you let it shake you, or will you continue living as the person you know yourself to be? Nelson Mandela once said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." Holding on to bitterness does nothing but harm you. The most powerful people in history were not those who retaliated in anger, but those who took life's unfairness and used it as fuel to create something greater. And you can do the same. The next time life deals you an unfair hand, instead of reacting, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what is the most powerful response I can have? Because often, the most powerful response isn't a reaction at all. It's the quiet, steady resilience of a person who refuses to be shaken. There's a strange kind of power in silence, not the awkward, uncomfortable kind, but the deliberate, controlled kind that turns the tables on an aggressor. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said that if someone provokes you, it's because your mind is complicit in the provocation. It sounds harsh at first, but think about it. How many times have you let an insult, a rude comment, or a passive-aggressive remark ruin your entire day? The truth is, the words themselves don't have power. The real power lies in whether or not you choose to react. Take Eleanor Roosevelt, for example. As the First Lady of the United States, she faced relentless criticism from politicians, journalists, and even members of her own party. But instead of snapping back, she remained composed. She famously said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." That's Stoicism in action. She understood that an insult only carries weight if you choose to carry it. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was the ultimate show of strength. Now think about how this applies to your own life. When was the last time someone said something that got under your skin? Maybe it was a rude coworker, a family member, or even a stranger online. Did your reaction help the situation, or did it only make you feel worse? The next time you're insulted, resist the urge to fire back. Take a breath, let the words pass through you like wind through an open window, and move on. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of control. And in a world where everyone is shouting, the one who remains calm will always stand above the noise member. Silence is an option, and sometimes it's the most powerful one you have. Intro. Rome was a dirty, dusty place. Life is a dirty, dusty thing. It always has been. And it always will be. We wake up in the morning, and we're fresh and clean. And by the end of the day, we are covered in dust and dirt metaphorically. And literally the dust of work, the dust of stress. I think about how fresh and new. A new year seems just 3 months ago. You know, we had the best of intentions. We were turning over a new leaf. We were starting a new page. And here we are just a few months later, old habits have come. Back, new bad habits have formed, stuff has already piled up. We are already behind. And I think that's why we have spring cleaning. We've got pounds to lose. We've got vices to quit. We've got things to declutter. We have a chance to bring a new us to a new season. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Some habit the Stoics think you need to stop doing to get clean this season, not just from the dust and the grime of earthly life, but also from bad habits and compulsion, so we can live a life of clarity and purpose, so we can make the most of this new season, so we can spring forward in more ways than one. And by the way, if you want to join me, and thousands of other Stoics all over the world that are doing that for 10 days here in March, I would love to have you join us in the Daily Stoic Spring Forward Channel Challenge. You can sign up now at dailystoic.com spring. But let's get into music. Stop letting circumstances define you. At the Stoics speak of this idea of the inner citadel, this sort of part inside yourself that can't be touched by externals. Good news, bad news, good fortune, misfortune. Mark Cyrus writes, that stuff cannot touch the soul, and I think that's what we see despite all the things that we know happened to Marcus in his life, all the good fortune that he did not meet with all the misfortune that he did not deserve. Nothing touches the inner goodness inside him. That's what meditation shows. It shows that despite the filth, the dust, the stress of life, what remains is the goodness. He keeps that pure bubbling up. Music. Stop being negative. Always part of the reason your life sucks is 'cause your thoughts suck. Mark says that our life is dyed by the color of our thoughts. So if we see only negative, if we only see the worst in people, if we only see what's impossible, if we only see how we screwed up, that's going to color our perception of reality. Your life is TED by the color of your. Stop wasting time. Music. Thoughts. There's a limit of the amount of time that's assigned to each of us. Marx Rees would say, and if you don't use that time to free yourself, he said, it'll be gone forever, and it will never return. His point was you can't wait until tomorrow. He says that's what we do. We could be good today. Instead, we choose tomorrow. We put it off. We don't say, We're never going to do it. We say we're going to do it later. But the result is the same. We never end up doing we don't end up making the changes we don't end up becoming what we're capable of being. Who we know we should be what we know we ought to be when a new season is upon. It's a chance to ask yourself, how many more winters am I going to let go? By how many more springs am I going to? By how many more springs am I going to waste? Am I going to wait until summer? Until fall, until another 365 days around another rotation of the Earth before I get serious about this. Before I do what I know I need to do. Before I do what I know would be good for me, Stokes would say you got to stop thinking about it, and you got to start doing it. And there's no better time than right now. That's what we're doing in the daily Stoic Spring Forward Challenge. We're using this new season as a chance to spring forward to make changes to do. The things that we know we could and should do, and you can join me, and thousands of other Stoics doing this challenge. It's the 10-day challenge of Stoic-inspired wisdom. It's lessons for me, lessons for Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, and Epicus. You can sign up right now. At dailystoic.com, spring sign up now, grab your spot, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Stop vacillating. Together a philosopher goes to the house of a Stoic named Agrippinus, and he says, "Hey, I've been asked to attend this party that Nero is throwing on. We all know Nero is awful and corrupt and evil. I'm wondering whether I should go or not. I'm thinking about it. Should I go?" And Agrius says, "Yes, you should go." And the guy says, "Why, you're not going?" And he says, "Yeah. But I didn't even think about going." His point is agonist wasn't do I want to do. I not he wouldn't even consider doing something like that would be so compromising or corruptive. The sort of hell yes or hell no rule. He's saying this for effect at tad, and so is the hell yes hell no thing, but the idea is we should be really clear about what we are willing to do and what we aren't willing to do, the things we accept. And the things we don't accept, we should have a clear sense of our moral compass, also our priorities. So we're not hemming and hawing, we're not having to ask for advice, we're not even thinking about it. It's a hard pass. Or it's enthusiastic. Stop being so available. Music. Yes, actually, RIT said he said this to me. Once he said you don't owe anyone a response, and his point was that just 'cause an unsolicited email comes in doesn't mean you have to reply to that person. There was a time early in my life when I believed in Inbox Zero, and that plan has had to get abandoned as I've gotten older and more successful. 'Cause I value other things, of course. Again, I want to reply, and there are people I do get back quickly to, but I've had to realize that the preconceived notion I have of what being caught up is actually preventing me from getting caught up on what's truly important. Eisenhower has that decision matrix about what's urgent and what's important, and sometimes the things that come in the inbound inquiries, they feel important. But actually, they're just urgent, and as you're tackling them, what you're ignoring is what's actually important. But not necessarily. Stop the hustle. Urgent, you make haste slowly. This is a Latin proverb. It's actually the favorite of the Emperor Augustus Festina Lent. Make haste slowly. We're driven. We want to go quickly. We want to hustle. We want to get there, but oftentimes, that's the slowest way to do it. There's the expression measure, twice cut once. There's the expression in the military, that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, of course. We want to rush, of course. We want to do it with all deliberate speed. But the deliberate part is the word there. You have to be disciplined about this. You have to make haste. Music. Stop holding grudges. Slowly, the grudge you're holding, it's meaningless. Mark says, look at the people who held these grudges, who raged about things, who held on to things. He says, where are they now? They're dead and gone. The grudge went nowhere, and the same is going to happen to your thing, whatever it is you're upset about, however significant it was for you. Eventually it disappears along with you. So how can you work on letting it go? How can you move? On how can you process? How can you not carry it around? How can you not let it consume you? Stop being so reactive. Music. It's easy to get swept away, to get carried away, to get worked up. There are forces that have always been howling and blowing at people today. It's the news and social media. But in the past, it was the frenzy of the mob or public opinion. Floor of the Colosseum, our job, the task of Stoicism, is to help us keep that even. Marcus says to be like the rocks that the waves crash over. Eventually, the sea falls still around Crep is one of the early Stoics, he said. Look, if I wanted to follow the mob, I wouldn't have become a philosopher. Our task, the purpose of Stoicism, is to help us slow down, to act with some restraint, to be able to reflect, to put every impression or opinion to the test as. Epic said to not get swept away, to not be buffeted by forces beyond our control, to keep our bearings, to keep our values, to keep from losing our minds when everyone else around us is losing theirs. Stop letting everyone in. At one point in Meditations, Marcus says avoid false friendship at all costs. Says nothing is more painful, nothing is worse, and he knows this from experience. I tell an obstacle is the way the story of Marcus being betrayed by Avidius. Cassius, his most trusted general, one of his best friends, he declares himself emperor, essentially attempts to orchestrate a coup. Marcus Aurelius knew that although we wanted to be trusting of people, although we wanted to assume the best in people, we had to understand that people were not perfect. People could be led astray, people could have evil intentions in their heart. We have to be aware of this. We have to be prepared for BONUS. Spring forward. Here we are. The winter has started to thaw. The days are getting a little bit longer. The weather is getting better. The leaves are coming back out. Let's tackle this new season with some new growth, some improvement, some invigoration. Let's embrace this new time of year. And that's what the Daily Stow Spring Forward Challenge is about. Want to spring into this new season, leap forward along with the clocks and get after it. If you've done any of our challenges, you know what they come with. It's one Stoic-inspired challenge, delivered every day. There's sessions. With me, there's a Stoic community. It's going to be a quick, rapid-fire Stoic inspired challenge. It's not going to be easy. It's supposed to be challenging, but all these challenges are designed to make you better, and I'd love to see you in it. And reminder, if you sign up right now for Daily Stack Life, you get this challenge and all of our challenges totally for free. So we'd love to have you in it. Sign up right now at ditto.com. Spring music.
Have you ever noticed how some people don't just dislike you, they want to tear you down? They don't argue with you openly or fight you directly. Instead, they move in the shadows, planting seeds of doubt, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Behind the scenes, they work tirelessly to see you crumble. But here's the truth. The second you stop falling for their traps is the second they start losing control. These people don't just hate you, they want to destroy you. It's like a wildfire, spreading silently beneath the surface. At first, it's just smoke, barely noticeable. But by the time you see flames, it's already consuming everything. Or think of a vulture circling overhead. It doesn't attack or strike. It just waits patiently, watching, hoping you'll fall. That's how they'd operate, not through open attacks, but through quiet, calculated destruction. But while they're busy plotting, you have a choice. Fall into their trap or rise above their schemes. And when you refuse to engage, that's when their frustration begins. When you stop playing their game, their plans start to fall apart. So how do you recognize these people before they do real damage? How do you stay sharp without falling into fear, paranoia, or self-doubt? Let's start with the first tactic. They spread lies to tarnish your reputation. This isn't just harmless gossip. It's an intentional attack. They'd want others to turn against you. They twist the truth, exaggerate your flaws, and paint a false picture of who you are. The goal isn't just to hurt your name, it's to isolate you, weaken your influence, and make people doubt your worth. But here's the reality. Someone who spreads lies about you isn't trying to tell a story. They're trying to take you down. And that's why your response matters. This is where Stoic wisdom steps in. Heraclitus once said, "Character is fate. Protect yours at all costs. No matter how many lies are told, your true character will shine through if you stay consistent. The people who know you, who have seen your actions, will recognize the difference between truth and deception. The key is to guard your integrity, not chase every rumor." A man I know, let's call him Daniel, was a respected leader at his job. He earned his position through hard work and integrity. But a jealous coworker began spreading rumors that Daniel had only succeeded through favoritism. At first, Daniel wanted to defend himself, to confront every lie. But then he realized his best defense wasn't arguing. It was continuing to be the man his real supporters already knew him to be. And over time, the truth came out. His coworkers' lies backfired, and Daniel's character remained intact. Because lies are temporary, but character is permanent. So when someone tries to smear your name, stay calm. Reacting emotionally only gives them more material. Let your actions speak louder than their words. Keep showing up as who you are, and the truth will rise. Don't waste your energy trying to convince those who are determined to misunderstand you. Your reputation is built over time. No one can erase it with a few lies. Next, they manipulate you emotionally. This one is especially dangerous because it's subtle. It's not open hostility, it's quiet control. These people use guilt, fear, and shame as weapons. They chip away at your confidence and make you question yourself. At first, it might sound like concern. "I just worry about you. You don't seem like yourself." Or "Red guilt tripped you. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me." It seems small, but over time, it breaks you down. You either seek their approval, doubt your own decisions, and slowly hand over control. But here's the hard truth. They don't want to support you. They want you to depend on them. The moment you feel like you need their reassurance, they've won. You're stuck in a cycle where they create the insecurity and pretend to be the only cure. This is why Stoic wisdom is powerful. Epictetus said, "He who controls his emotions controls his destiny." The moment you stop letting them control how you feel, you take back your power. Their words only hurt if you let them. A man I know, we'll call him Ryan, had a friend who constantly played with his emotions. Anytime Ryan made a decision that didn't align with this person's agenda, the guilt trips would start. "Wow, I guess I just don't matter to you anymore." Or when Ryan started focusing on his goals, it became, "You've changed, you're not the same person." And at first, Ryan felt guilty. He questioned himself. But then he realized this friend only had a problem when Ryan stopped putting him first. So how do you deal with emotional manipulators? First, recognize the pattern. If someone constantly makes you feel guilt or shame for making your own choices, that's not love. That's control. Second, stop chasing their validation. You don't need it. And most importantly, learn to control your emotions. The less you react, the less power they have over you. When you reclaim your mind, their games lose all effect. Finally, they provoke you to ruin your image. This is one of the most calculated traps they set. They'd want you to react emotionally, irrationally, loudly, so they can step back, play innocent, and paint you as the problem. They might make passive-aggressive comments, push your buttons, or embarrass you in public. And when you finally snap, they act shocked. Suddenly, you look unstable. They win the crowd by keeping their hands clean while you look like you lost control. But this isn't about the argument. It's about control. They want to manipulate how others see you. That's their end game. And the more you fight back emotionally, the more they win. Again, Stoic wisdom offers the antidote. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. The most powerful response is silence." calmness, discipline. When they try to bait you, and you don't take it, that's power. A woman I know, let's call her Sarah, had a coworker constantly trying to provoke her. He'd insult her ideas, take credit for her work, and make her look bad at meetings. After weeks of it, Sarah finally snapped. She called him out, raised her voice, and just like that, he played the victim. Wow, Sarah, why are you being so aggressive? And everyone remembered her outburst, not as months of provocation. But here's what Sarah did next. She stopped reacting. She stayed calm. She let him show his true colors. And over time, people saw him for who he really was, a manipulator. Because when you stop feeding them energy, they starve. So how do you handle people who try to provoke you? Stay calm. Don't react emotionally. Let them reveal themselves while you stay steady. Your silence, your discipline, your refusal to stoop to their level, that's what exposes them. At the end of the day, no one can destroy you unless you hand them the power. Protect your mind. Guard your emotions. And never let anyone turn you into a version of yourself that isn't true. Recognize the setup if someone is deliberately trying to get a reaction from you. That's your first sign to disengage. Master your emotions. They can't control your image if you stay calm. Let your actions speak louder than their words. When you refuse to stoop to their level, their attempts to ruin you fall flat. At the end of the day, your reputation isn't built on a moment of anger. It's built through consistency. When someone tries to provoke you, remember, your silence is stronger than their words, and your self-control is more powerful than their manipulation. Stay calm, stay focused, and never let them dictate your direction. Now, let's talk about one of the most deceptive tactics used by someone who doesn't just dislike you, but is actively plotting against you. They pretend to be your friend, not because they care, but because they want access to your thoughts, your plans, and your weaknesses. At first, they seem genuinely interested in your life. They ask about your goals, your struggles, and the things that matter most to you. They listen just enough to make you believe they're trustworthy. But here's what's really happening. They're not collecting memories, they're collecting ammunition. They don't want to support you. They want to find ways to use your words against you. Maybe they twist something you said and spread it around. Maybe they expose your vulnerabilities at the worst possible time. Or maybe they just hold on to what they've learned, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "Do not reveal all of yourself to everyone, for not all have good intentions. Not everyone who smiles at you is your ally. Not everyone who listens cares, and not everyone who asks questions deserves answers." A woman I know, let's call her Rachel, had a coworker who acted like her biggest supporter. He'd ask about her long-term career plans, her frustrations at work, even her personal life. She thought he was just being friendly. But one day she overheard him twisting her words and repeating them to their boss in a way that made her look bad. He wasn't her friend, he was a spy. So how do you deal with people like this? Be selective with your trust. Just because someone listens doesn't mean they care. Test their intentions. Share small, insignificant details, and see how they react. If they gossip or twist your words, you have your answer. Keep your real thoughts guarded. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. If someone is overly curious about your life, but never shares their own struggles, take it as a red flag. Protect your words, your plans, and most importantly, yourself. Let's go even deeper. Some people don't just want to hurt you, they want to isolate you. This isn't random. It's calculated. They don't just want to damage your reputation. They want to cut you off from anyone who could defend you, uplift you, or remind you of your worth. At first, it might be subtle. Maybe they make little concerned comments about you to others, remarks that plant doubt like, "I don't know, something about them feels off lately." Or they twist situations to make you seem untrustworthy, unreliable, or even disloyal. They create drama where none exists, whispering half-truths behind your back. And the worst part is it works. Slowly, people start treating you differently. You notice the shift, the coldness, the distance, and you don't even know why. But here's the truth. Their goal isn't just to isolate you, it's to make you vulnerable. Because once you're alone, you're easier to manipulate, easier to weaken, easier to break. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in again. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who will make a better man of you." Your strength lies in the people you surround yourself with. The right people will see through manipulation and stand by you. The wrong ones will believe the lies and walk away. Either way, you'll learn who's truly in your corner. A woman I know was thriving at work and had strong relationships. But then, a toxic person started whispering rumors about her. Small, subtle things like, "Emily seems different lately, don't you think?" Slowly, her coworkers started pulling away. She felt the change. But instead of chasing explanations, she stayed true to herself. Over time, the truth surfaced, and the people who truly knew Emily came back. Real relationships don't crumble over whispers. So how do you handle this? First, stay aware. Recognize when someone is trying to turn others against you. Second, don't play their game. Defending yourself too hard makes it look like you have something to prove. Third, hold on to those who truly know you. The right people won't be swayed. They'll see the truth for themselves. Isolation is only a weapon if you let it work. Now let's talk about something even more damaging. When someone tries to undermine your confidence, it often starts subtly. Maybe they offer helpful advice or constructive criticism, but you start noticing the pattern. Every time you take a step forward, they pull you back. Their goal isn't to help. It's to make you question yourself. Because the moment you start doubting your own potential, they have control. That's when they win. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are disturbed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your perception of it." The words and actions of others only have power if you allow them to. Their nativity doesn't define your abilities, only your reaction does. Jake, a man I know, started his own business. He was excited and ready. But one so-called friend kept making little comments like, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Or, "Most businesses failed, you know." Over time, those doubts crept in. But Jake realized that confidence isn't something others can take unless you give it away. So he cut out the negativity, trusted himself, and moved forward. And his business thrived. How do you handle this? First, recognize the sabotage. If someone makes you doubt yourself more than they encourage you, they're not supportive. They're harmful. Second, trust yourself. Your path is yours, and no one else's opinion defines it. Finally, stop seeking validation from people who don't want to see you win. Confidence is your shield. Hold on to it. And finally, the darkest tactic of all, when someone will stop at nothing to see you broken. This isn't just jealousy. It's obsession. They want you defeated, irrelevant, or gone altogether. Maybe it starts small, petty competition, rumors, or subtle sabotage. But over time, you see the truth. Every move is calculated. They celebrate your failures, twist your successes, and do everything to emotionally drain you. If they can't control you, they'll try to ruin you. If they can't ruin you, they'll try to break your spirit. Their ultimate goal isn't just for you to lose, it's for you to give up. Because to them, your strength is a threat. Your resilience is a problem. And the only way they win is if you surrender. Seneca once said, "Strength is found in enduring hardship without surrendering your virtue." That's what real strength is. Not reacting. Not breaking. Not losing yourself. If someone is determined to destroy you, your greatest weapon is your refusal to fall. They can spread lies. They can isolate you. But if you remain steady in who you are, they lose. Daniel, a man I know, was targeted by a former colleague who couldn't handle the success. Lies were spread. Opportunities sabotaged. People turned against him. Daniel almost walked away, but then he remembered. His strength wasn't in fighting back, it was in enduring. He stayed focused, true to himself, and refused to break. In the end, the one who tried to ruin him lost their own credibility. So what do you do? First, don't react emotionally. That's what they want. Second, stay focused. Don't give them your energy. And finally, endure without surrendering. Your strength speaks louder than their hatred. Stand tall, and eventually they'll destroy themselves. If this spoke to you, leave a comment with "Thank God," and don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps this message alive and reminds others that strength, wisdom, and calm will always win. If this resonated with you, stay tuned. The next part will change everything.
Have you ever found yourself unsettled for an entire day by something seemingly small? A provocative email, a complaint from a family member, or even a cold glance from a stranger? Suddenly, frustration, doubt, and sadness creep in. Why do we allow things beyond our control to shake us so easily? Why can a single ripple throw our inner balance into chaos? The truth is, it's not because the world is too harsh, but because we haven't yet built the resilience to face it calmly. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you craft moment by moment through conscious practice. Stoicism, an ancient yet timeless philosophy, teaches us exactly that, not by denying life's difficulties, but by facing them head-on, controlling our reactions, and mastering ourselves through discipline and clarity. Most of the pain we carry doesn't come from what actually happens, but from the exhausting struggle to make everything go our way. We're not really living. We're playing an invisible game of control, trying to twist circumstances, bend people's wills, and force outcomes that were never ours to dictate. In that frantic effort to control, we lose the very thing we crave most: freedom. I once watched a young athlete the night before an important competition. He stayed up all night, not to train, but to worry. He worried about his opponent, the weather forecast, the referee's decisions, the crowd's applause or jeers. I asked him gently, how many of those things can you actually control? He had no answer. The next day, he lost, not for lack of skill, but because his mind was already tangled in ropes he couldn't untie. True control is not about pulling the strings of the world. It's about gathering the strings in your own hands and knowing when to let go. Picture yourself sitting at a chessboard, but not your game. The pieces move according to someone else's plan. You try to predict every move, grow tense, frustrated, exhausted, attempting to play someone else's strategy. But you're playing the wrong game. Why not stand up, leave that board, and return to your own match, the one you actually have a say in? Or think of life as an immense stage. You are an actor playing a small role. You didn't write the script. You don't control the lighting or the sound cues. You don't choose the audience. But you can choose how you perform. And when the curtain falls, who will they remember? Not the one who tried to control the whole production, but the one who gave everything to their part, no matter how small. This practice begins in simple moments. When waiting for someone who's late, instead of glancing at your watch and building silent resentment, ask yourself, what can I do with these 15 minutes? Maybe read a few pages, jot down an idea, or simply watch the world around you and take a deep breath. When your child comes home with a poor grade, resist frustration. You can't rewrite their test. Ask instead, have I given them the tools to learn? And if you have, then step back and let them walk their path. When facing unfairness, question yourself, can I change the rules or only change the way I play? There's something almost magical that happens when you stop trying to control what's not yours. Life becomes quieter, clearer, like muddy water settling into stillness, allowing you to see straight to the bottom. You know where you are, where you need to go, and you're no longer dragged by noise and chaos. There's a passage from the Bible that offers timeless wisdom. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Letting go doesn't mean surrendering in defeat. It means returning what was never yours to hold and focusing on the part entrusted to you. But be careful. Letting go can easily be confused with indifference. Letting go is a conscious, deliberate act. Indifference is running away. The difference lies in presence, to observe, to care, to stay awake, yet not to cling. Like the person flying a kite, the string remains in hand, the eyes follow its rise, and there's a moment when you know you must release, allowing the wind to carry it higher than your strength alone could. And when you master that art, you're ready for the next step. Adversity is no longer something to avoid, but a doorway to walk through and forge yourself stronger. Steel is not born in silence and softness. It is made in fire and pressure. Will you remain the anxious hand trembling at the kite string, or will you learn to let the wind lift you and soar? No one wakes up hoping their world will be turned upside down. Yet life doesn't ask for our permission to deliver hardship, job loss, betrayal, illness, accidents. Most people worry, try to prepare, and when the storm finally hits, they ask, "Why me?" But a Stoic asks a very different question. What virtue is life inviting me to strengthen right now? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Without obstacles, there is no path forward. Think of a simple, familiar moment. You're criticized at work. Your first instinct? Anger, hurt, pride, maybe even the urge to quit. But pause, breathe. This moment isn't an attack. It's a quiet invitation to practice humility and patience. Every piece of criticism, fair or unfair, is an arrow aimed at your ego. Yes, the ego feels pain, but your character grows stronger in return. Instead of fighting back, ask yourself, what lesson is hidden here that will make me unshakable tomorrow? That's not passive endurance. That's active transformation. A marathon runner once told me that by mile 20, her legs screamed in pain. But when she learned to smile through the ache, the pain stopped frightening her. It didn't disappear, but it lost its power. In life, traffic jams aren't enemies. They're quiet patience drills. Rejection is not failure. It's a lesson in resilience. That early morning when every part of you wants to sleep in, yet you still get up and push forward, that's when the steel in your spirit is forged. Have you ever considered that the very thing you avoid daily might be exactly what would toughen your soul if you faced it head on? Most people miss this truth. The more you avoid discomfort, the weaker you become. And here's the twist. Those little annoyances that hurt your pride may actually be mirrors, showing you where you are most fragile. We often think, as long as things go smoothly, I'll be fine. But if your well-being depends on circumstances staying perfect, you're gambling your peace on chance. Remember these words from the Bible. Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. Next time life hands you frustration, don't ask, "When will this end?" Ask instead, "How much patience is this moment asking me to build?" The more trials you face, the larger your capacity becomes for greater things. A dam isn't built only to block water. It's built to hold back enormous pressure. Without pressure, how can you ever know your limits? And sometimes what feels like too much today is only the threshold of a new strength you've never tapped into. So the next time you face something that makes you grit your teeth, smile softly, not out of forced positivity, but from deep understanding. Right now, you're sharpening the blade of your spirit. You're walking a path only the bold dare follow. And perhaps on the other side of what once felt unbearable, you'll find the strongest version of yourself waiting. What almost broke you, but didn't? How did you rise again? Share your journey. You never know who might draw strength from your words. We are not hurt by events themselves, but by the stories we tell ourselves afterward. A piece of criticism is just a string of random sounds until the mind turns it into a judgment. A failure is nothing more than an event, yet emotions inflate it into a definition of who we are. The Stoic doesn't aim to be cold or numb. They simply refuse to let emotions take the wheel. Imagine your mind as a vast room with every emotion knocking on the door. Anger knocks. Fear knocks. Anxiety knocks. Most people invite them in, offer them tea, and let them stay for days. But the Stoic does it differently. They crack the door open, look each guest in the eye, ask, "Where do you come from? Do you really need to stay?" And gently close the door. This is not philosophy for bookshelves. It's something you can practice every single day. When your heart races after reading an upsetting email, don't hit reply, stand up, walk around. When anger burns in your chest after a careless remark, notice the heat, but don't fan the flames. It's like seeing a small fire on the table. You don't blow on it to make it bigger. You calmly place a damp cloth over it. Emotions aren't as lasting as they pretend to be. Leave them alone and they fade. But if you keep stirring them, replaying the same negative thoughts over and over, you're feeding the fire. A friend once told me that whenever he feels overwhelmed, he pictures himself standing by a rushing river. The leaves floating past are his emotions, fast, wild, fleeting. He doesn't jump in. He watches. Minutes later, the water slows, becomes still. Could you do the same? Emotions demand attention, but they do not deserve obedience. The difference between the strong and the fragile is found in that single choice. Will you let the emotion command you, or will you simply notice it and ask, what would be more useful right now? The quieter you become, the louder your reason speaks. The slower you move, the clearer the path reveals itself. Anger is just foam on the surface of the water. Deep below lies calm no storm can reach. Have you ever placed your hand on your heart in the heat of anger and asked, "Is this truly worth losing my peace for?" It doesn't happen overnight. It takes training. Emotional control is a mental muscle. Without daily exercise, it weakens. Discipline is not a shackle. It is a door. Without it, you stay stuck in cycles of procrastination, emotional swings, and scattered desires. Discipline lays down a smooth road beneath your feet, while the absence of it drags you into the mud. Every small choice you make each day leaves a mark on your mind. Each time you surrender to convenience, your brain quietly records permission to do it again. But every time you say no to lazy, no to delay, you are rewriting your own programming into something stronger, steadier, more reliable. The question is, who do you walk alongside each day? Discipline or distraction? What you repeat becomes who you are. And who you are shapes your destiny. It's tempting to believe success comes from grand gestures, big decisions, flashes of brilliance. But look closer. No one builds a strong body from a single intense workout. No company thrives on one good idea alone. Everything lasting comes from thousands of small, silent decisions that no one else notices, except you. Some say, I lack determination. But determination isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you craft, day by day, from quiet actions no one applauds. Think of bending a dry twig, easy at first. But wrap it with thin wire, layer by layer, and soon it will not break. Are you patient enough to wrap that wire? Or are you still hoping the twig will strengthen on its own? Set one unbreakable rule for yourself. One that stands no matter the weather of life. For instance, before bed each night, Write down 3 things you accomplished, however small. Not to boast, but to remind yourself you are someone who keeps promises to yourself. Discipline is not always about doing more, but about daring to do less. Less scrolling, less busy work, less energy spent on things that do not move you forward. A skilled soldier does not carry the whole armory on his back. He chooses what is essential. What unnecessary weight have you let go of today? That too is part of strength. Discipline isn't always about rigid control. It's sometimes the grace to forgive yourself. Not to let yourself off the hook, but to refuse to stay down when you fall. It's not failure that breaks discipline, but the moment you permit that failure to become your excuse to quit. As the Bible says, a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again. Standing up the 8th time, that's discipline. But none of this matters if you can't see reality clearly. If you can't call laziness what it is or recognize procrastination without dressing it up, all your efforts become self-deception. That's why the next step is crucial, learning to see reality objectively. When you strip away excuses and emotion, discipline stops feeling like a burden and becomes second nature, like breathing, like taking the next step forward. That's where true mental toughness begins. There's a quiet but dangerous habit we all fall into, labeling everything that happens to us. Missing the bus feels like bad luck. A compliment is good. A criticism is terrible. But is that really true, or just a story we tell ourselves? Stoicism teaches us to see events with clear objectivity. Don't label things good or bad. They simply are. Imagine you planned a picnic for weeks, and on the big day it rains. Instinctively, you feel frustration. But rain is just rain. It doesn't have an agenda. That negative feeling comes only from your expectation of sunshine. The better question isn't, why did this happen? But what will I do now? You can't control the weather, but you can control your response, your attitude, your outlook. That's the revolutionary shift. When you remove emotional bias from how you see the world, you reclaim control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." The world evolves constantly. It's your perception that defines your experience. Think back to something that recently upset you. Was it truly terrible, or did you decide it was? How many times has something you thought was a disaster turned out to be a blessing in disguise? That's reality. It's neutral until we color it with emotion. A practical way to cultivate this objectivity. Next time you're angry or upset, pause and ask, is this truly a fact, or just my interpretation? Will this still matter in an hour, a day, a year? If not, let it drift away. Another exercise. Retell the event like you're explaining it to a stranger. No emotion, no drama, just facts. You'll feel the weight lift. Real calm doesn't come from a life without storms, but from walking through them with steady eyes and a fearless heart. Strength isn't the absence of hardship. It's the grace with which you face it. As the Bible says, "Be still and know that I am God." Learning to be still in chaos is to trust in a greater order, beyond your control or definition. If you're still here, it means you're doing something rare, sharpening your mind, disciplining your thoughts. Don't stop. Each principle builds on the last, forming a strategy you can apply daily. Keep going, and you'll walk away with wisdom you can carry for life. This morning, someone ran a red light and didn't make it home. This afternoon, someone sipping coffee received a call from the hospital that changed everything. Tonight, someone will go to bed believing tomorrow will come as always, but it won't. We all know death is certain, yet we live like we're immortal. Ignoring death doesn't protect us. It makes us fragile. The Stoics never turned away from death. They faced it. And in doing so, they learned to live. Some think thinking about death is morbid, but in truth, it's liberating. Only when you accept that everything ends can you begin to truly savor life. We all delay things, apologies, bold decisions, moments that matter, thinking there will be time. But later isn't guaranteed. Once you grasp that, hesitation becomes foolish. People on their deathbeds don't waste energy worrying about others' opinions. They want to say what was left unsaid, to do what they never dared. Why wait? Seneca said it best. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Time isn't the issue, our attention is. Hours spent scrolling, gossiping, complaining. Ask yourself, if you had 1 week left, would you still waste time on negativity? Or would you chase your dreams, hold your loved ones close, and say the thank yous you've held back? Try this. Each morning as you wash your face, look into the mirror and say, "Today could be my last." You'll brush off pettiness, focus deeper, and cherish even the simplest moments. This isn't morbid, it's awakening. Like a climber aware of the drop, you move not in fear, but in presence and intention. And here's the paradox. The more you accept the certainty of death, the lighter you become. You stop carrying the weight of trivial worries. You begin to live deliberately. Those who remember death master the art of choosing wisely. They nurture meaningful relationships, pursue purposeful work, and let go of useless conflict. As Scripture says, what is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. So live as if this moment is your only chance to get it right. That's the courage of the Stoic, to walk with death beside you not as something to fear, but as a reminder to treat each moment as sacred. Challenges don't just come once. They return, often more than we expect. So remind yourself, this isn't the first, and it won't be the last. Some days, everything seems to go wrong. A rejection email, bad news, an argument that tips you over the edge. But instead of asking, why me? Ask, how will I face it this time? Storms will always return. The weak wait for them to pass. The strong learn to build shelter in the rain. Think back, how many times did you think you couldn't handle something, but you did? What knocks us down isn't the problem. It's the shock. But why are we ever surprised? Nothing we face is truly new. Seneca said, disaster is virtue's opportunity. Hardship isn't punishment. It's an invitation to grow. Treat every challenge like an old guest. Sometimes they arrive unannounced, but they're never strangers. Invite them in. Listen to what they have to teach you. And when they leave, you'll be stronger. To practice this, when you're struggling, write it down. Ask yourself, have I been here before? How did I handle it then? What do I want to do differently now? Writing gives you control. You're no longer just reacting. You're choosing your response. Often what we fear most isn't what's happening, but the version we've created in our minds. I once saw a young mother in a store, her child screaming, tears in her eyes, convinced everyone was judging her. But no one cared. Everyone was caught up in their own problems. The Bible says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. Whatever you face, others have faced. And you're not alone. The things that steal our sleep usually never happen. And when they do, they're rarely as bad as we feared. If you could speak to your past self in their moment of panic, what would you say? Probably, calm down. You'll get through this. So why not say that to yourself now? And the next time trouble knocks, don't slam the door. Open it, ask what it came to teach you, and walk through it. In life, you'll always face praise and criticism. You'll be admired and envied, complimented and insulted. If you live for praise, you'll fall apart with criticism. If you fear judgment, you'll never live freely. True mental toughness comes from standing firm, not from reacting to every opinion. A Stoic doesn't live for applause. They live in alignment with their values. Every comment reflects the speaker's mind, not your worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride. Let go without attachment." Don't bask in compliments. Ask, am I better than I was yesterday? Don't be crushed by criticism. Ask, is there truth in this? If yes, improve. If not, move on. Don't let your mind become a dumpster for everyone's opinions. And ask yourself, why do you crave validation from people you may not even respect? One day, if no one praises or criticizes you, will you still show up and do the work? A carpenter doesn't wait for applause to build a table. A farmer doesn't grow crops for compliments. They do it because it's their craft. The more you need recognition, the easier it is to control you. But let go of that need and you become unshakable. Try this. When praised, smile and get back to work. When criticized, breathe and ask if it changes your mission. Before posting anything online, ask yourself, is this to serve or just to be seen? Every time you let go of the need for approval, you build steel in your soul. And in doing so, you'll find peace, not just from the outside world, but from the noise inside your own head. That leads to one final challenge, seeking solitude. Can you sit alone, in silence, and not feel empty? If not, that may be your greatest test. Solitude is not escape, it's self-encounter. It's where you hear your truest thoughts and face what you've avoided. The weak fear silence. The strong listen to it. In silence, you sharpen your mind. You see what to let go of, what to hold on to. Avoiding solitude is the real waste. Without it, you're easily pulled into other people's noise, living their lives instead of your own. But sit with yourself long enough, and you find your center, your strength. If everything fell silent tomorrow, would you still feel whole? Solitude teaches you to be complete without applause, to answer hard questions without flinching, and to realize that no one is coming to save you but you. Seek solitude on purpose. Wake up 15 minutes earlier and sit in silence. When discomfort comes, stay. When your mind races, stay. Listen, because if you can't sit with yourself, how will you stand when life shakes? Mental toughness isn't born. It's built, choice by choice, thought by thought. Life will test you, but how you respond is yours to control. Discipline yourself, stay calm, let go of what doesn't serve you. And if this message resonated with you, share it. Pass it along. Someone out there needs it just as much as you did.